Hi, my name is Ishan Mahajan, and today we will be creating birthday cake cupcakes. There are chemistry processes involved when creating cupcakes, so today I'll be going into them and even creating the cake. Firstly, let's go over the chemistry processes. For one, baking a cake is an endothermic reaction because when we put the cake into the oven, we're providing heat for the cake so that the cake can be created. Secondly, when we use these eggs, the eggs actually have proteins within them that are very important for the structure of the cake. As when we beat the eggs, the proteins within the eggs become part of the batter, and the protein creates a matrix and then hold the air bubbles together. And so when we actually even heat when we heat the proteins and when we heat the eggs within the oven, the bonds become even stronger and then holds in those air bubbles, which creates a nice fluffy cake, which is what we all desire. The butter contains fat that coats the protein and starts with the oily layer and helps prevent the formation of gluten. And we don't want gluten because less gluten allows there to be a nice texture to our cake. And we all want nice texture to our cake. The baking powder is very important as the baking powder contains an alkaline and acid. It contains the alkaline known as sodium bicarbonate. And so when we put it in the oven, the sodium bicarbonate and the acid react together to form carbon dioxide and water. And so the carbon dioxide bubbles within stay in the cake and allow it to rise within the oven. At the same time in the oven, the Maillard reaction is occurring. The Maillard reaction is essentially what allows the cake to brown. It's also known as a non-enzymatic browning reaction. And so this reaction is split up into three parts. The first part is known as the early Maillard reaction. The second part is known as the advanced Maillard reaction. And the third part is the final Maillard reaction. So essentially, after all the reaction steps occur, in the final step, the condensation of amino acid compounds and sugar fragments create a brown pigment that eventually leads to the cake being turned brown and allows for the browning to occur. So now let's start baking this cake. The first step to bake this cake is that I'm going to add 125 milliliters of salted butter, and then I will add 180 milliliters of powdered sugar, and I'm going to beat this for 90 seconds. So after beating this, I'm going to add 180 milliliters of buttermilk, and then I'm going to add in 2 eggs, and then I'm going to add in 5 milliliters of vanilla extract, and now I'll be beating this for 30 seconds. So for the next step, we're gonna add 10 milliliters of baking powder, and so the baking powder is right here. Here's 10 milliliters. We're gonna add 1.2 milliliters of salt. So here's that. So then we're gonna add 414 milliliters of flour. So here's all the flour. And so then we're gonna mix this all together, and then we're going to add 125 milliliters of sprinkles. So the sprinkle right here. And so as we add the sprinkles, make it that birthday cake cupcake, and then we're going to use the spoon to mix over the sprinkles with the flour and the rest of the mix. Now with everything mixed, I'm going to be putting them into the cupcake liners. So I'm just going to take a scoop of this, put this into there. And I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the liners. And now we're gonna make the frosting. So the first part is that we're gonna get 250 milliliters of melted butter. Let's get that in there. Okay. And then we're gonna get 15 milliliters of milk. And then we're gonna get 7.4 milliliters of vanilla extract. And we're going to, after we get that, we're gonna add in 700 milliliters of powdered sugar, but we need to be careful how we add this. We're gonna be adding this at 223 milliliters of powdered sugar each time. So I'm gonna only add a little bit. And now I'm gonna mix it. The last part of the entire thing, all we're gonna do is add sprinkles to the icing, to the buttercream to make icing. And so here we do that now. And so here is the final product, the birthday cake cupcakes. As you can see, I put the frosting on top of the cake, and it looks really nice with everything together, and then it basically has created a nice, fluffy, not too sweet cupcake.